Hi there. I'm going to talk to you today about spatial awareness. It's come to my attention that there's many people that have no concept of spatial awareness. Adults, I'm talking about people who are breathing and amongst us and operating machinery. And they have no concept of the basic thing of spatial awareness. It comes to my attention when I'm doing the school run every single work day and every day of the week, apart from the weekends. I'm doing the school run and it takes a ridiculous amount of time longer than it needs to, purely because of people's inability to understand spatial awareness. Now, as a child, you'll probably all be familiar with a toy, something like a ball or a wooden board that has holes in it. A triangle, a circle, a square, corresponding shapes that go in to teach very young children the concept of things that fit and won't fit into certain spaces. Now, I had a particularly posh one. It had a circle, a square, a triangle and a star. It's probably very expensive, actually, my one. I think my parents were probably overcompensating to make up for the fact that I was ginger. It's the same reason they bought me a boomerang instead of a frisbee, so that I could play without any mates. And the reason I had like a cabin bed, very much like a bunk bed, but you just have sort of extra storage space instead of friends sleeping over. Anyway, I digress. The spatial awareness issue is something very dear to my heart because it takes hours of my life spent in an utterly frustrating state. Now, adults, I'm assuming, have the concept of, if, for example, you said to the average person, just stop someone walking by and say to them, excuse me, do you think that this pen, for example, would fit inside the Albert Hall? Now, I'm gathering that most people would have enough cognitive capacity to think, yeah, a pen would fit inside the Albert Hall without having to think too much about it. Oh, at what point then, if you scale it down from that, does it become where they have no concept? So, because I can guarantee you that there are hundreds of people in cars who have little to no concept of spatial awareness and whether a car will fit in a gap or not. So scaling it down from the pen in the Albert Hall, at what point do they get where they think, well, I'm afraid I've got no idea? Is it if you said to somebody, will a golf ball fit inside a house, for example? Is that the tipping point? Is that the stage where they say, well, I'm afraid now we're getting to the point of just not understanding. I wasn't expecting this kind of level of scrutiny. I mean, perhaps the leading brains of science or mathematicians in the country might know those kind of things, but the mortal man such as myself, how are we expected to know such items? I was expecting sort of multi-choice type of scenario here rather than a mastermind specialist subject type of level question. Is it at that point? I mean, most people manage to get through daily life of understanding. They go up towards each other and, hello, pleased to meet you, yes, nice to see you, and they proffer a hand, rather than just sort of walking up to people and going, bah! Oh, I'm sorry, I've just sort of toothed you in the face there as I met you because I had no concept of how near or far away you were from me. It's nonsense. So when they get in a car and you have basically a situation where you're driving down the road on a road that's about 3 times the width of your car, a good 3 times the width, and you come across a vehicle that's parked tightly up to the curb, meaning that to go round it with nothing coming the other way, you have about twice the width of your car, and people coming up to that, they think, right, okay, here's something, and I'm following behind these people, assuming they're going to have the ability to understand their car will easily fit, but no, nay, alas, they do not. They come up to that, and they think, emergency stop! I'm going to hit my face onto the steering wheel because there's a potential that my car that's this size won't fit through a space that's this flipping size, so I must slam the brakes on and I must stop everybody behind me. I must face into my steering wheel and then I must edge forward on the seat and I must look pained and look at each corner of my car as I inch painfully slowly through a gap that is hugely, infinitesimally bigger than my own vehicle, and I must carefully look and then finally we get through and we carry on. But even more unexplainable is humans have the ability to learn from things that have happened. So, for example, if you take a small child and he touches a kettle, he burns himself, he knows that wasn't very pleasant. I won't do that again because I've learnt. So, I won't do it. Likewise, if you say, a strawberry, that was nice, and they do it again because that was nice, that was a pleasurable experience, but they learn from things that work and things that don't work. These people don't learn at all. They'll carry on down the road, they'll get to the next car with the same space to go past it, and instead of thinking, well, I know that my car comfortably fits through this space because I've just done it. Just the last thing I did on earth was go through a gap of exactly the same size. So I know my car fits. Instead of doing that, no. They will think, right, I've never come across such a scenario before. There's a gap that's far bigger than my vehicle. Emergency stop. And we must do it again. Go through the whole pained expression of inching carefully through the gap and holding up every single person behind me in the world that's trying to get to work. We must do that. And then, to top it all off, the thing that just blows my mind is the same people will then come across a scenario where it is busy and there are vehicles parked, one here, where you have to have some sense. You have to go round one and wait for the people coming the other way to come because you can't carry on. There is a queue of traffic, probably all being held up by some maniac at the front who's slamming their brakes on unnecessarily every time there's a vague shortening or narrowing of the road. So they stop, and instead of allowing traffic to come the other way, they just move forward and they just sit there and they block the entire thing, leaving a gap of about an inch for the cars to come the other way. And then they wonder, oh, is there not room for you to go through? Oh, I'm terribly sorry, I didn't realise. And then what they do is they inch ever so slightly forward, thinking that that's okay, that that's a gesture showing that actually, oh yes, I'm very concerned about what's happened here. I'll inch slowly forward, which makes no difference whatsoever, and then stop and hold everybody up. And again, they don't learn. They go and do it again 2 minutes later. Instead of stopping in the gap, letting people come through, they just blindly go, ow, and just block everything with no concept that they're causing hassle. It's infuriating to the degree that the next time I see somebody doing it, I genuinely would like to get out of my car, run over to them, grab them, drag them bodily through the window of their car, snapping their tiny little hands on the window as I drag them through, put them into a coffin, dig a large hole, bury them alive, pat the earth down on top, and then with a maniacal grin, go and shout through the earth saying, I knew you would fit in there. I knew you would fit in the hole because I've got an idea and a concept of size. And I looked at your body and I looked at the size of the hole and thought, yes, it would fit. And guess what? It did, because I understand spatial concepts. And I put them in, I pat the earth down, I jump up and down on top of it, and the world is a greater place. And the next day I drive to school, it's smooth and it's easy, and I get to work without any hassle, and everyone lives a happy and fun life. Thanks.